It's quite amazing how the number 500 million keeps cropping up in the news recently. From the 500 million that the government says it's going to take from farmers in the form of inheritance tax, to the 500 million that a company called Pearson is paying for a Brazil language school firm, to a court case in which somebody called Maluf plundered 500 million pounds worth of public money when he was mayor of Sao Paulo between 1993 and 1996, and Brazil is trying to get that back. This says here, the Jersey Evening Post. It's amazing, as I said, how that 500 million keeps cropping up. And it comes up in more instances as well. I'll tell you about those after I've told you I'm Granniopteryx, and I'm on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute and Minds. So I saw this headline in The Guardian. More than 600 Brazilians deported by Home Office on 3 secret flights. So, it's the Labour Party, so no demonstrations about that. More than 600 Brazilians, including 109 children, have been secretly removed from the UK. One of the 3 largest Home Office deportation charter flights in history since the Labour government came to power. 600 Brazilians. Now, the only Brazilians I've come across in London have been hardworking, tax-paying Christians. And it struck me as slightly odd that Brazilians, of all people, are being deported, whereas people of, well, one might say less civilized provenance are being welcomed in to land on the beaches, and the first thing they do is pray to Allah, and then they come to prey on the social services. Right, and the only other Brazilian I've come across who got into trouble with the law was Jean-Charles de Menezes, who was wearing a T-shirt and jeans when the police thought he was a terrorist. They jumped him on a train and shot him 6 times in the head. And it was quite obvious he wasn't armed or wired. And that poor kid was just pulled down and shot. And then the police started making excuses and making up stories like, he was wearing a huge puffer jacket in the middle of summer. He jumped the barrier, and none of that happened. They just piled onto the train, pinned down a young man in a T-shirt, and then one of them emptied his gun into this young chap's head. That's the only other Brazilian man or person I've come across that's had trouble with the law. And now, are the mainstream media reporting on the way that the British government is deporting Brazilians, including children, some of whom have known no other life than Britain? No, nobody's saying anything about it. Well, except me and this report here, of course, in The Guardian. So they are saying something, but I haven't seen a huge fuss about it. I haven't seen demonstrations. I haven't seen people piling onto planes and refusing to allow them to take off so that these people can be saved in Britain. But then they're Christians, you see, so obviously they don't belong here. Now, I wondered about this 600 Brazilians who were deported quietly, on the sly and without fuss. Why Brazilians? Why Christian, semi-Europeans, you might say? And then I read this article, and somehow I wondered if there was some sort of connection. UK joins Brazil's Global Alliance Against Hunger and Poverty and announces investment in global food security. And this is from a government paper. The UK confirms its membership of the Brazil-led Global Alliance Against Hunger and Poverty and announces global food security investment. And what this means, in effect, is that Britain will be giving money to Brazil. And I have heard the number 500 million being batted around. Isn't that strange? And then we get this: deportation and no fuss, absolute silence. Even this in The Guardian is neutrally reported. It's not filled with outrage, as it would be if we were deporting Afghanis back to Afghanistan. There you'd get young blonde women mouthing off on the plane, refusing to sit down until the pilot has let the deportee back onto the tarmac and into our country too, as happened fairly recently, to commit more crimes. But here, this government paper says millions of households grappling with poverty and hunger across the global south will be supported. That means our money to them, through the newly launched Global Alliance Against Hunger and Poverty. Well, it's so easy when you're spending somebody else's money, isn't it? I.e. mine and my children's money and my National Health Service money and my, pension money and all the rest of it. And, winter fuel allowance, although I'm not in that unfortunate position of not being able to, having to choose between coal and food, or gas and food or whatever. The UK will sit on the Alliance's steering group. Oh, that makes us so important, doesn't it? The Board of Champions. What names! And invest £70 million over the next 18 months. Just a minute, that's not the UK investing £70 million. That's me. And nobody asked me. That's my kids who are trying to make lives for themselves in their respective houses. And I dare say nobody asked them either. Minister for Development Annalise Dodds said, with the climate emergency increasingly preventing the world's most vulnerable families from having enough to eat. Prove that, Ms. Dodds. Prove it. It's time for a new approach. Meanwhile, our pensioners don't have enough to heat, never mind eat. Apparently, I've been told, world hunger is at an all-time historical low. So I don't know what Annalise Dodds thinks she is saying. It doesn't make any sense. But then, does this. 600 Brazilians deported by Home Office on 3 secret flights and no outrage about it on the BBC or from the various anti-deportation groups. So, Annalise Dodds continues, only in genuine partnership with the Global South can we move closer to a stable world free of hunger and poverty. No, you know what has removed hunger and poverty? International trade. Not handouts, international trade. That's why poverty is going down. International trade. The announcement includes up to 50 million for the new Resilience and Adaptation Fund. What wonderful words they have. To ensure that food insecure households in countries like Ethiopia, Chad and Bangladesh can withstand shocks and extreme weather. You know what's wrong with Bangladesh? I don't know about Chad. I'm assuming Chad too. I don't know much about Ethiopia. Bangladesh is in a bad financial state because of corruption. And you could pour the entire gross national product, such as it is, of the entire British Isles into Bangladesh, and it will disappear in no time into the pockets of the corrupt landowners, business dealers and politicians. The package of investment builds on over £30 million of funding announced earlier this autumn. Oh, the Lord Collins, the Minister for Africa. Oh, doesn't that sound grand? Anyway, let me notes for editors, all the rest of it. Right, so I just thought it was interesting that the UK has joined a club that Brazil has started, and for some reason it's managed to deport 600 Brazilians with no fuss at all, least of all from Brazil. That's strange, isn't it? Well, it's very odd indeed. I'm sure we're all very puzzled about that. Till next time. You can help my channel by subscribing and clicking the notification bell. That's quite important. And by sharing if you're so inclined. Links to my other channels and to donation methods are in the description. But the best way you can help is simply by clicking like and notify. Thank you.